All right. Well, welcome everyone to the June monthly member gathering with Care Farming Network. It is so great to see you all. This month, we are going to be discussing how to better tell your Care Farm story. And just as a little background or primer, we ask if you would like to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are and where you come from, what part of the country, if you're with a care farm or an organization. We always love to see in the chat too, the name of your organization or farm. And I'm going to kind of kick things off. Today we're going to do a really brief presentation just to kind of plant some seeds around a discussion that will open up after we also hear from two guests who are coming to help share their own story of how they're talking about their work in their organizations and on their farms. So I'll be introducing them after my really brief presentation. Ask anybody also, if you have a question, feel free to either raise the hand in the chat feature or pop your question in a chat or your idea in the chat. We're going to make sure that we have plenty of time to open this up to all members to have a really good discussion afterwards. And I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. So as I said, we're here to talk about how to better tell your care farm story. And I just want to first note that the Care Farming Network, we are here to connect both established and aspiring care farms. We foster meaningful support, and we are building awareness about the transformative power of care farming. I also want to note that Care Farming Network is a program of Red Wiggler Community Farm and is supported by members and partner organizations. So first, why is this storytelling thing so important? We think that the reason that storytelling is so effective at capturing people's attention is simple, because it's human and our brains are hardwired to respond to stories, which means that the story you share about your farm or organization's work can motivate everyone. It can motivate your volunteers, your staff, your existing donors, or potentially or new potential donors. So how can you inspire and captivate audiences when there's so much digital noise out there, right? At the core of engagement is a well-crafted story that informs and it inspires and it catalyzes audiences. So here is just, Andrea is going to be sharing a couple links that are from what I've tried to do in this presentation is really share what other farms and organizations are doing out there. And this is just, you'll see in the chat that there's a link to, this is a newspaper article, which just, neat caption. And so after discovering a means to communicate, Autistic Boy pens award-winning essay. One example of just telling a really meaningful and engaging story to a supporter. We have sort of 4 key elements when you're thinking about storytelling. And those are like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the solution that you're offering? What is the impact that you're going to make? And what is the ask? And a lot of people forget that last piece, the ask. This doesn't have to be an ask for money. It can be an ask for someone's time, somebody's attention, somebody's interest or engagement. As you can see here, kind of pulled from the slide, they're talking immediately, this is Elderflower Care Farm, immediately talking about the benefits of providing an adult day center. So saying that there's a problem and a solution and an impact all in one there. So here's another example from Rescued Hearts Ranch. I pulled this from a recent newsletter that I received. And they're stating right up front, who are we serving and why? And they give some statistics here in terms of their work and their impact in the area. They're out west in terms of their service and what it is they're wanting to do. Again, addressing the problem and talking about the solution that they're offering. Impact. Here's Urban Autism Solutions or Growing Solutions, again, pulled from their new newsletter. I think this was from May's newsletter. Taking time within your newsletter to talk about your impact. And as you can see here, they're naming it right up front, what their May impact is. I believe they do this every single month, showcasing the specific thing that they've done about how dedicated their students are and their work in building the raised beds with a really great picture. This is actually a link, and I should note all of these, well, most of these articles, I'm going to be following up with a resource list after this presentation. So you're going to get links to all of these too, just as an example or as examples, but we also have a web page on our website that is dedicated to sharing stories out there around from care farms. So a lot of these are gleaned from our resource page, care farms in the news. This is just an example of a care farm, Hiram Farm, that has had somebody from the local news station come on out. Great caption, can't say it any better. Farm helps people with autism live better lives. There is a 2, maybe 3 or 4 minute story done there. And yet another link, this is around the ask. This is actually pulled from Red Wiggler Community Farm, the farm that grows farmers, and you're going to see right over there on the corner, you make these stories possible, donate. So being upfront with your ask. One of the things I just wanted to pull out today, and I think we'll hear a bit of this also from presenters, is that video content. And I think it's being shown more and more that newsletters are great, but kind of the static material can be augmented by providing videos. These do not have to be professionally made videos. This is Annie Spindler, again, talking about Elderflower Care Farm, a really personal connection around why she is the founder, felt like a care farm for older folks suffering from dementia was necessary. And it's on YouTube, and I believe it's on their homepage too. Their the startup care farm too. So that founding story can be really impactful. There's a lot of stuff out there also around just creating strategies for showcasing your work, reaching your audience, assessing your story's impact. There's a link in here. What is a digital strategy? This is from Candid. This is a completely free resource that you could go to. And I won't go into a whole lot of time here around digital strategy, but you can find these resources online for free that kind of walk you through the steps to be a bit more strategic in telling your story. And it can be in digital format, it can be in print format. I just wanted to note up here that even though Candid is, you can have a membership and have a paid membership, there's a lot of free resources on their website. I think this actually just got in here as a second time. This is an interesting link here. I think it was last year, was it? Side Effects Public Media. They did a radio show produced by Elizabeth Gabriel. This was really exciting to Care Farming Network because it highlighted care farms and asked this question that if farm-based activities can support mental wellness, why aren't there more in the United States? And this was actually picked up by a number of public radio stations throughout the country. Got a lot of people contacting us. Again, great thing to include in your own website or materials. Seem like there's just a lot of interest when things like this are raised from people who either say, gosh, tell me more, or also from care farms out there who are connecting now with us after some national media attention. Again, going back to kind of resources, they are everywhere. This is a YouTube video, which is telling how to do a GoFundMe account or a campaign, I'm sorry. This is a really good one, by the way. It's pretty short and it kind of proves that you don't have to be a master in marketing in order to tell a really good story. Really leaning on the authenticity and being genuine in your story and not being super worried about being overly polished. Again, free resources everywhere. This is also from Candid. You can see that this is just one example from a free video on how you can craft compelling stories. I'm a big fan of Candid if you didn't, if you can't get that there, so. And then it's also just important to remember that people might still need to understand more about what care farming is, because in the US, care farming is still a relatively new concept. So remembering in your story to kind of define what your farm's purpose is, the benefits that you are providing, and consider providing information about all of the above. We actually have this video here on the left on our website, little under 4 minutes, talks about what is care farming and can easily be shared. It's also on our YouTube channel. If you ever felt like you needed access to a pre-made video to help tell your story. And clearly there's a bunch of different platforms of which to tell your story. This is just one example here from Bittersweet Farms doing a press release featuring Dennis Quaid. But you've got your website, you've got videos and podcasts and newsletters and social media and radio. So with all of that being said, as I am wrapping up my presentation here, I would like to welcome one of our first guests. Mariana is coming to us from 21 Roots Farm, and she is going to talk a little bit about the work that they're doing located in my home state of Minnesota. So yay. Mariana, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, and thanks for sharing with us, because I know you guys have gotten some really great attention and have some masterful ways of telling 21 Roots Farm stories. So I'll pass it to you.
Thanks a lot, Kate. It's really nice to join all of you here today and meet you. And I have with me Amy and Brittany, who are the co-founders of 21 Roots Farm. So they're going to jump in if I get anything wrong or to add anything in. A lot of this material is material that's been created and inspired by the work of Brittany, who does our Instagram page, posts a lot on our Facebook page, and also works closely with a videographer that we have contracted to do some work at the farm. I don't know if we have, I sent a bunch of links to Instagram pages or posts rather. So I don't know if those are going to be shown here, Kate and Andrea, or
I can certainly pull up your Instagram account if you don't mind. I'm going to do a quick stop share and then I'll do that.
That'd be great. And so, and I can talk about what we're doing with that Instagram page. I mean, I'm interpreting because, you know, I know that Brittany has and Amy have, you know, they're intentionally posting things. But when I see those posts, they strike me as a lot about the person-centeredness of the farm. And so a lot of what we do is developing autonomy, engagement, and safety at our farm. So that first post with a calf that's on the far left, we can look at that one. So this is our newest calf, Fern. And so what we do with the farmers is after they meet the calf, or even before, as we know that the calf's going to be being born, we start to come up with names, and the farmers come up with names. And so it involves them directly in that process. So Amy and Brittany garner those names, and then they're voted on. And then they're put on this Instagram post, and people get to vote on the name as well. And so there's this kind of involvement, which is really spearheaded by the farmers themselves, and then pulls in our Instagram followers, or can pull in our Instagram followers. And we've done this a couple of times now because we have 2 calves, as you can see. So that's one of the ways that we focus on just using video really to tell our story. If you go to that, yep, that next one where, not that one, although that's our other farm. She's beautiful too, Pinto, but this one, yep, of the potato planting. So this is just showing one of our groups of farmers. Teamwork is really, really important. And as we're developing more and more of our employment skills focus at our farm, teamwork is one of the biggest things that we're encouraging, developing, and building. So this is just an example of that in action, and also just shows closely that we're in the planting season now. So it's all hands on deck. Oh, that one. Yep, about on the checkered tablecloth. So this is a volunteer event, and Brittany posted this, and so she was inspiring people to come and donate newspapers to this volunteer event. We have a couple of these or 3 of these a year where volunteers come and do a big cleanup with us at the farm. Well, this one was compostable planting pots that Brittany and Amy had discovered. And they thought, let's do this instead of using those other planting pots that we have for our new seedlings. So the farmers can take the seedlings straight into these little pots and then throw them right into the ground or plant them right into the ground. So this is a volunteer event that pulls in our volunteers, brings them closer to us, even though they're not there in the field planting with the farmers, but it brings them in contact with the work that we do in a very visceral way. And then that last one on the far left is a good example of the range of activities that we do at our farm. We're out, rain or shine, snow, sun, whatever. And so snowshoeing, we didn't get to do a lot of it this year, but when we did do it, we went out. And so it shows the involvement of the farmers in every aspect of the farm that we can encourage them to be in, and encourages their I don't know, their choice, because they may not know if they like snowshoeing. They may think they hate it. They might hate it for one season and then decide they like it, but we keep offering and going through these activities with them to help them understand and decide what it is they want to do, which is the big engagement piece. And all of these posts are short, sharp. They really get to the point. They're visual and they're packed. Often they have music, so they're really bouncy, or they're kind of, thoughtful and reflective. In all of them, we're showcasing the animals, as you can see, because the animals are such a huge part of the therapy that we do at the farm for ourselves and for our farmers, as well as for the animals who are very patient with us, but also have a very, very good life at the farm. I don't know if we have a chance to go to that Facebook page link. Is that something you can do, Kate? It's on our website.
Yeah, give me just 1 second.
And I don't know if we could put the sound to that, but I think just to kind of tee that one up, that is really what we're trying to achieve in our work now in terms of telling our story, which is not to do it so much with words and with us, but much more to do it with the farmers and the animals and just showing what they do without us having to talk about it. So these really short videos are about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, that Jeff did for us. They're pretty impactful in that format of storytelling.
Mariana, before I do that, I do have it pulled up. I'm not sure the sound is going to work, but I'll try.
Okay.
One quick thing on the videos that I was noticing, is that editing feature done within Instagram or maybe Brittany? Sorry, Brittany, I didn't see that you were on here. How easy is it to do that?
Yeah, sometimes it is. Otherwise, CapCut is a free app that I use a lot. We also have a GoPro, and so they have an app with GoPro.
Okay.
But it's super easy, and a lot of times it's just like something's naturally happening and I'm kind of doing something really quick, and I don't spend a lot of time, and it's a lot of just like what's naturally happening. And I kind of watch the farmers and just see what they're noticing, and then kind of, hey, do you think we should? And I'll kind of even pull them to the side, and I have the farm phone, and we maybe make it together sometimes, like depending on the day. But yeah, I do not spend a ton of time.
All right, that's super helpful to know, because it's nice editing that just like, I like the fast whatever, fast motion, opposite of slow motion, for like making the planters there. So yeah, let me, I'm gonna go back to sharing the screen and I'll pull up that Facebook post here too. All right. Mariana, was there a specific one that you
Yeah,
wanted me to
go
look at?
down. You could just
Yeah.
look at that one right there. Yep. That one. Yep.
Ah, okay. Let me see if I can get sound on it.
So like
Beautiful.
that's something that we use for a donor dinner. That just was on a loop. And as you see, that's on the website. But that's something that tells the story with just music. So there's no narration or anything. And then there's one final piece that if you could pull it up, I want you to see for the group to see of what Brittany produced for our farmers, and they're for our new farmers. So we go into the summer season with like a million program. Okay, it's only 6, but it feels like a million programs, and they're all going at once. And so we have a number of new farmers. And so Brittany has produced a social story. So the farmers have an idea of what it's going to be like before they get onto the farm. And we've been sending that out to them. And we try to get it really from the point of view of the farmers. And I think that does have text, but it shows you also what we're trying to achieve with like minimal text, but really with images. So if you could show that, Kate, then that would wrap up our part of the
I
presentation.
sure, I don't think I have a link to that from the email that you sent.
You don't?
Maybe you could pop it in the chat, and
I'll pop
I'm
it in the
hearing
chat.
that you can't hear my video.
Oh, it's okay.
You can't hear the music?
No, but it's okay. But you could hear it? That must be nice.
I could hear it. I was jamming out. I liked it. Yeah, it was great. Well, why don't you, if you can find that link and pop it in the chat, that would be fantastic.
I can put it
And I
in.
thank
Yep.
you so much your work it's beautiful. I love the Minnesota images. I love the winter images. Shows like, still getting outside in the cold. Yay, snowshoeing. But thank you both. I definitely want to make sure that there's time for folks to be able to share their own and ask questions. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to move it over to Jen, who is joining us she's the operations director with Read Autism Services, Greens Do Good, which is a vertical farm in New Jersey. And give me 1 second to do a little drive in here. And Jen, I'm going to spotlight you. There we go. Welcome.
Thank you. It
Yes.
is such an honor to be here and join you all. I'm really impressed by all the work that everyone here does. And honestly, Kate, your opening presentation was so, all encompassing. I'm not really sure what more I have to add, but I'll try. So Kate did mention that part of Read Autism Services. So that's our parent company that is comprised of education for individuals with autism in 2 schools. That's supported by the Department of Education, an adult program for 21 plus, and adult residential programs. We currently have 3 homes with a 4th coming in September and a 5th in 2025 for adults with autism, and that's supported by DDD. We have a foundation, which is obviously the charitable arm and what we affectionately call our Idea Incubator. And we have a farm. So the farm is a really unique place because it is in a warehouse in an urban section of New Jersey. And it's pretty small. It's just about 3,000 square feet, but we're able to invite 80 students per week in to learn farming. And so we have a workforce development program. And not part of today's story, but with workforce development, we're able to really diversify revenue because, selling basil doesn't keep the lights on. But we do sell, basil and microgreens and lettuce and whatever. But here's the thing that I think is important, and it's 2 minutes of marketing 101, right? So what we always have to consider is owned, earned, and paid. Our owned channels, obviously our social media channels, our podcast, are robust in that we have more than 5,000 followers. But what's fascinating is that we sometimes get 10 likes, and we've been trying to crack the code. Like, how is it that on a story we'll get 1,000 views, but if the same story is posted, we get 20 likes? And we're really trying to suss that out, so much so that I attended a social media conference called Social Fresh. And what I learned is the entire world is trying to capture lightning in a bottle. Everyone's trying to capture the rat carrying pizza. It's impossible, and no one knows what they're doing. Like, literally, I paid so much money to attend this conference for the keynote speaker to say, we're working it out. So I think that you always have to rely on what you have found successful. We spend so much time creating new content 3 days a week, at a minimum 3 days a week, when really we could be using our most successful posts and reflighting them with a different heading. I think always remember the human element that Kate talked about earlier is the most important as well. So if we post gorgeous graphics, and we, by the way, use Canva, in case anybody wants to know, we love Canva, and we also use Vimeo for our video editing. If we create the most gorgeous graphic with actionable items, it gets a couple likes. But if we post like our favorite farmer, Finn, working really hard while jamming out to music, we get 150 likes immediately, and 20 people have shared it, reposted it. It's our mini viral sensation. So that's owned. The earned stuff is developed through partnerships, just like Care Farming Network. We've got some unique partnerships with higher ed, with some research platforms. Also, all of the workforce development students come from about 15 different schools and districts in our area in northern New Jersey, and each one of them take pictures while their students are working and post them, and then we share them. And then also our food banks. We do contribute to 3 nearby food banks, and every time they have something going on, they post and share, and that sort of tells our story as well. And then finally, paid. Kate was showing our impact report, and it was a laborious task. It was a huge lift. It took probably 8 months to create, but I would suggest that everyone take that time to create their own impact reports and tell your story that way, because it's, for us, it could be like people served, but for you, it could be like heads of lettuce donated, number of jobs you were able to find your own students, hours spent farming with like good music playing and smiles on happy faces. But either way, it costs money. It also costs time, but it is well worth it. And doing things like that too, we've been really fortunate to be sort of found by some TV places. So ITV featured us on Farm Dreams, which was really, really fun. PBS just found us on something called Vegan Eats, and I think that's going to be airing in June. And honestly, I think it's a combination of the individuals with autism that we highlight and their amazing personalities and the joy you see on their faces, and our big mission, right? Like our mission is super big. So I think that's sort of what helps us tell the story. Hopefully that was helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen and Mariana
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Amy and Brittany. You've given us a lot to digest and think about.
I do talk quickly, so if you need me to slow down and say something over, I will. But I'm in northern New Jersey, so this is how we all talk.
Well, hey, we have a lot of folks joining us, and this is just the chance, you know, as a member gathering to ask questions if something is spurring your curiosity of others. Maybe you've got something that you're dealing with that can be more challenging, or you want to bounce an idea off, or you think that you're doing something pretty cool and you can share your ideas too. You know, we all are learning from each other, so.
Well, I would jump in with a question. Who's on TikTok? Are you ready for TikTok, or are you feeling like TikTok's almost over and we need to look for the next thing?
I'm waiting for the next thing.
Okay. So, you know, we spent about 3 weeks with one farmer, a neurotypical farmer who was employed by us, creating that viral I'm passing the phone to. So by the time we recorded it and re-recorded it and re-recorded it, by the time we edited it and by the time we were ready to post it, she took a job at our school and she was like, I'm kind of done with farming, I want to teach now. And we were like, oh, so we never posted it.
I am not on TikTok. I can barely keep up with Instagram and Facebook, so.
I think, you know, as far as TikTok, we rely on our farmers. They use TikTok and they will do TikTok, you know, stuff at the farm and then they post it. So I think it's a really passive and wise way to use that platform as well.
Yeah, it really does work when used correctly, but I think that if I tried, I don't know that it would work. Same with
Yep.
Be Real. Who's on Be Real? Anybody? No? Okay. So we tried the Be Real moment, but I think people got tired of it. So Be Real is an app that alerts you when you need to post a picture and it's in that moment, and that's why you're being real. And if you don't do it in that moment, it sort of like passes you by. And if you're working, if you're planting sweet potatoes, if you're in the middle of something, like you can't stop what you're doing and post in that moment. So I'm not sure how successful that was.
Jen, when you were talking, you made me remember that Amy, Brittany, and I just had a meeting with a PBS writer-producer and for a show called Prairie Sportsman, which has been around for 30 years. And they have been doing some segments on children and nature and the impact on what they're calling, I forget what the Latin is, but love of nature and humans. And so they, biophilia, I think they're calling it. And so, and they're using Mayo Clinic data and all of that. So this person wrote to us and she said that she found us on that newspaper article that Kate has put in the chat now. And so she's going to be filming us and she's going to do a 10-minute segment. So our challenge with this is to try to use our perspective, which is the farmer's perspective now, to get them to look at it through the farmer's eyes instead of looking at it through our eyes and their eyes. So that's kind of how we're trying to shape the message, continuing, but using that visual medium again.
That's really exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks. And Kate, I emailed you the PDF version of the social story that Brittany came up with because my admin, I don't have clearance to put it into the chat for some reason here.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you could put that PDF in the chat for people, then they could see another angle that Brittany is using. That'd be great. Thank you.
I sure will. I like that idea of like when you think of storytelling, what perspective it is you're telling that from. And I thought even when just putting together some ideas for this gathering, when we're talking about how to tell your story, like, you know, whose perspective are you telling it from and who is your audience, right? Because I think you can have a number of different ways of telling your story depending on your audience. Anyone else joining in today have a specific tactic or challenge that you've used?
I just wanted to add that a lot of the videos that we had, we kind of want them to be multi-use, and so not to one specific audience. So the video of the winter, it was also great for our parents to be able to see what their child does every day. And so that was kind of a afterthought, but I think not having a lot of words kind of opens it up to anybody, future participants or donors
Yeah.
or Mhm.
I guess my dog has something to say. Sorry. Maybe I'll call on Woody because as an artist, I know you've talked about the importance of photographs and the power of a photograph. Anything to share just in terms of visual imagery and storytelling?
I've been trying to think, I've been telling this Red Wiggler story for, I guess my name's Woody from Red Wiggler Farm and CFN. Telling the story, the sort of origin story of, because I'm the founder, has been kind of a hallmark of kind of what at least what I've done. But I also am a trained photographer, so I've always photographed. But what I wanted to share was at Red Wiggler, we try to limit cell phone use in the field, and because it can be a real distraction from the task at hand. And we work with a lot of school age students who really have a hard time being away from their telephone, their smartphone. And so that's been kind of a challenge, at least for me, is how do we get the content without it being a distraction? So kind of what I do is we have a morning meeting under the tree in the morning, and there's anywhere from maybe 10 to 30 people at that meeting, and that's the folks who are going to be working that shift. And it's people with and without disabilities, neurotypicals, neurodiverse, trained farmers, people out there for the first time. But I'll just, in that morning meeting, I'll say I'm gonna be out photographing and just letting you know. And I remind people that, please let me know if you don't want to have your photograph taken. Sometimes we've had one guy who's with us for a long time, and he's recently retired, but he was here for 27 years. And I finally figured out how to get him to say yes to being photographed. It was to give him my camera and let him make the picture. And then that would loosen him up. And back in the day, it was this big, huge, SLR, fancy with a lens and everything. Now it's a telephone, the cell phones. They're less intimidating. I found my, as they say, real camera can be intimidating for folks. So we're just so lucky that we have access to these little teeny devices that are, I don't know that I want to be stealthy with it. I want people to know that they are being photographed and that they have a choice, and always respecting that choice, even if we have on file in the office the waiver. It's just having the paper is good, and that's an initial awareness that we do take photographs here, and we're asking you now when you're being onboarded as a volunteer or as a paid staff member. But again, always asking, and honoring.
He also interchangeably uses both, so you need to be ready for both.
Yes. Charlie works at Red Wiggler. Hey, Charlie.
Hi, everybody.
You're in my office.
I am. Yeah, no, over here.
Yeah, otherwise, I have enjoyed taking the photographs as sort of a founder and executive director. I'm not in the field as much anymore. I find it since it is a skill I have, that it does connect me to the work. You know, as you grow and get bigger, you end up doing more paperwork and relationship building outside of the farm, and or sitting there figuring out how to link Facebook to Instagram, which I have figured out. But being out there and photographing connects me to the people doing the work. Their parents do follow. What I'd add is that sometimes the support staff for the people who are here in their homes don't really in a group home setting, don't really understand the kind of work that the people, their residents, do during the day. There's a lot of turnover there that often, and so we've tried to get those folks to say, hey, you know, here's where somebody works, and this is kind of the setting. And if you scroll through the social media, you can get an idea of the day to day, so that folks don't show up on the farm with a coat and tie on and loafers, you know, which hasn't really happened, but some version of that, you know, nicer clothes. And it takes a while for, say, a residential environment whose job it is to make sure that people, you know, have choices that are positive in their wardrobes, and you know, present in a professional way when they leave the house and go to work. That's not always Carhartts and, you know, sun shirts that people wear and big hats and, you know, the farm gear that we wear. I'll, Charlie, did you have any other, anything to add about photography and video and storytelling at Red Wiggler?
Yeah, so Woody posts often, but that is something that is exciting whenever he does. And sometimes he will do it in a way where there's nobody in at first, and then he'll ask us what we're working on, and then he'll ask us if people don't want to be photographed, they'll be taken out so that he can do the photographable picture, which is fun. And then he sometimes posts that, and that is also kind of cool. Other than the fact that he has a really cool camera actually sitting like 2 feet from me.
One of the questions here in the chat is, do people have media releases for both program participants and people in the community?
Woody, do you want to take that one?
Yes, we do, and they volunteers that are regular volunteers, and we also have the staff and growers when they're onboarded. That's one of the pieces of paper, and then school groups are much harder to get releases from, because, you know, maybe there's an administrator setting up the tour, and then there's a teacher who's actually doing it, and I pretty much stay away from photographing school groups. They're here for a short period of time. I'll do pictures from them at a distance, but I don't really photograph. I don't post those so much because it just seems they're far away. You don't really know what's really going
harder
on.
to get.
Yeah.
And then we also, so because Woody doesn't do that often, since I'm also a part of the education crew, and I do a lot of tours, at the end of the tours, either me or Lynn will take a group photo, with either Claire and I or Claire and Lynn in them. who are other staff members that are part of the education crew, as well as the general crew at Red Wiggler, which is also nice because we're more inclined to get a better group picture because we're with them most of the time, if not all the time that they're here. So that is a really great way to interact with them at the end of either a tour or at the end of their time here when they're going to be leaving soon. Sometimes we might get a picture, depending on where we are, near part of our rosemary area or our tree that is where we eat lunch. And that is a great way that you can say, like, hey, we're excited that we were here, kind of thing. But it wouldn't really be something you would post. It's more of a signature thing of just saying, hey, we did this, it was fun.
Yeah, kind of capturing a memory. And those sound
Yeah,
like really
more
pretty
like-
backdrops when you have
Yeah,
some herbs
it's
behind
more
you
like
or
that.
a nice tree.
and like Woody, I do have a
Often-
background of photography.
So when that happens, and what'll end up happening is that the coordinator of those sort of mini events will share that back to the school or the church or the whatever group it is, even corporate groups and stuff. And it's, thinking about storytelling and marketing, we think about the, getting 50,000 likes or all of that sort of thing. Sometimes it's surgical. It's like, you get like tomorrow we have a pharmaceutical research company coming to do, like, it'll be like 20 to 30 people helping out with sweet potato slips. They came
Yep.
last year and they loved the photographs that we sent back to them in a Google folder. And I can't help but think that got them to come back, that it just deepened the experience, that helped them remember the experience. Perhaps their coworkers didn't go on the trip, and so we'll see who we get this year. But when you're storytelling, sometimes you can be speaking to a large group. That's great, but don't underestimate the power of a small group.
Small groups are great. It can be a more personalized individual thing too. So a small group can be anywhere from 3 to 5 people, which is on more of a personal level. It's more like a small group thing. You'll take them up into the field and kind of work with that group specifically. Like I think it was the other day or yesterday, I took a college group out that was between like 3 and 5 people. We went up and we picked potato bugs, and we worked the whole length of the bed. And I worked with them the entire time because I was their crew leader. So it was, and they really enjoyed that. And it also gives them a chance for both of you to connect more on a personal level. And that is something that I think is really valuable, and a lot of people underestimate that up by a lot. And I think it's really something you should do a lot more.
I think that's a really good point, Charlie. And I want to just bring us back as we're starting to kind of think about wrapping up here with only 9 minutes left. But just that personal element of storytelling, I think I mentioned this in the presentation, that it's great if you have a marketing department or a marketing person or a writer, but stories can take a lot of forms, and you don't always have to have the perfect words to say exactly what it is you do. Obviously, from this discussion, you can hand someone a camera to take a short video, and you can take a photo. And I think in today's world, when there is so much information kind of bopping around, one of the things I come back to is that, you know, this whole idea of really being authentic and genuine. And a lot of people are doing this work because it's really meaningful to them. And as long as that comes through, it feels like great ways of telling stories. I wanted to just note here too, again, going back to our website, we do featured farms. I think a lot of folks that are on this call today have probably had their farm or organization profiled, but one of the things that Care Farming Network is trying to do is raising awareness for care farms. I think we're thinking about a hashtag of like, this is what care farming looks like, to use in our newsletters or social media, because again, who doesn't get some raised eyebrows sometimes when you're talking about care farming? So trying to give examples of it. So please, if you have good photos or an article that comes out or a newsletter to share or a snippet or a social post, please do think about sharing them with us, because we love to cross share and cross post and do all the things that help support the work and just amplify it out there. And if you haven't been a featured farm, get in touch. Woody, yeah.
I was just gonna say, when I work with people on development, and like we're talking about events, I say go to other people's events. You know, go to other care farm events. But you could take that to this messaging thing, is that, you know, if as a network we all were liking each other's stuff, and I know it's time consuming and it's helpful if you've got a person dedicated to do that. But the cross-pollination of care farms liking each other's stuff has only got to be good for our algorithm, right? I don't know, just made me think of that.
I just have one other thought, because you got me thinking outside the box. One of the ways that we've shared our story is to incorporate first responders in farm life, as well as school life and residential life. Maybe everybody here has already done that, but if not, I would encourage you to reach out to your local, either like the police force or the graduating cadets, get them young, invite them to your farm and have them experience like life on the farm, working with someone who's neurodiverse. It goes a really long way. And Woody, if you take pictures of that, like that's priceless.
Yeah. And Karma, I'm seeing some of your chat in here. Really good idea around kind of small group influencer circles. Great way to put it. I know that we have a care farm not far from us. You're asking how our extension supports care farms. I don't think we're seeing a lot of that in terms of extension supporting care farms right now. Again, we want to build awareness and make connections, so that does need to happen. But yeah, in terms of like being open to community events and having people come on farm and do cooking classes and all of that, really great ideas.
And what is the University of Minnesota doing to help you out with that?
I do not have an answer. I don't work with extension and care farms. I talk about Care Farming Network all the time and care farms with extension, but right now I really don't think it's on at least UMN's extension radar. I don't know, Amy, Brittany, do you have any? You're Minnesotan, any kind of work with extension?
No, we haven't had any.
No.
How about Midwest Food Alliance or Land Stewardship Project allies?
Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna just state like the folks that you're talking about are specific to Minnesota. And maybe we can talk offline afterwards, because we're, yeah. Excellent. I do have some ideas, and I'm involved with Renewing the Countryside here in Minnesota. And so there's some really interesting conversations happening right now around.
That's a Bible. Sorry, I just have to say that book was a Bible. What, 25 years ago, that book that came out? So awesome, Renewing the Countryside. Were you involved in that?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about? That book came out like 2000, I think it came out, and they featured all of the last of the legacy heirloom farms in Minnesota. Just a beautiful book. Public Radio covered it, awesome. Sorry to come out. I'm like a big, foodie farm person. I love Minnesota. So anything can happen there. It has.
Kate, I wanted to just mention one thing. I don't know how helpful it is if you talk about Minnesota. I have no direct links or collaborations, but the University of Minnesota's developmental programs through their psych department and otherwise are as good as they are anywhere in the world and would be an amazing link and collaboration. They have some stellar people there.
Yeah, well, and one of them actually started a care farm recently here in Minnesota, so.
Oh, okay.
But yes, the kind of social development and fantastic programs, so.
So there is a Minnesota connection.
Mhm.
And it's the perfect one, according to John. And I would have to agree. Having attended a lot of meetings, it's been 20 some years ago, but the Black Psychological Association of Minnesota, and it gets into, I put somewhere in the feed, people don't like to talk about scary things on corporate farm time, like, land back and reparations or any of that, not going there. But the clinical reasons and the funding to go into those areas of workforce development is so revolutionary and important, and it's time.
I hear ya. Well, we are approaching the top of the hour here. Thank you to everybody who came to participate, listen, share. Really appreciate your time. We'll be sending out a recording and a whole bunch of links to a whole bunch of cool stuff. I think in July, we're taking a pause on monthly member gatherings just with the holidays and busy farming time. So we'll stay tuned to our website or future emails around our next monthly member gathering. And with that, I will bid you adieu and wish you a very wonderful rest of your Thursday.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Woody, I think if we haven't done that already, for doing like EMS people or police people, I think that's great. We could run that by Mel.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Have a good Thursday.
You too, Charlie.
We do have here a 30,000 gallon underground cistern that's used for putting out fires. And the fire department in Germantown, just 4 miles away, they come out and train their rookies on how to pull from a cistern. And so they come out, they used to come out more often. But it's really exciting when they show up on the farm. It's very distracting, but they show up, and I would love to deepen that connection because giving people positive experiences that are memorable, that are outside of the context of first responding, is just another way to advance our mission. I think that's a great idea, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to prolong.
No, I